Welcome to Syntax on this Monday. Hasty treat? I don't even know if we're calling these hasty treats anymore.
It's a Monday.
On this Monday episode of Syntax, we're going to be playing a game of Stumped, which is where we ask each other web development questions. We're going to do one from front-end JS, back-end JS, CSS, HTML, TypeScript, browser quirks. We're going to do some browser history stuff. We're going to just be asking each other these questions, and hopefully they're advanced enough that we can stump each other and make each other squirm a little bit trying to get these answers. So, my name is Scott Tolinsky. I'm a developer from Denver. With me, as always, is Wes Boss. What's up, Wes?
Hey, excited to get stumped. These are always fun to do.
Yeah, and I'm stoked for this one. I think it's going to be really exciting. And before we get going with the game, if you are stumped by your code and bugs, well, you're going to make sure you have a tool like Sentry on your side. That's sentry.io, because it allows you to solve your bugs with pure visibility into your code base. Not only that, it helps you solve your performance issues. It helps you find the bad areas of your application, the things that are slow and that are making users upset, buggy, all these things. And you can actually see the bugs happen as they happen for the user with a scrubbable video replay. So check it out at sentry.io/syntax. Sign up and get 2 months for free using the coupon code TastyTreat. Yeah, Sentry, amazing product, and happy that they're bringing the show to you today. So I got a question for you, Wes. We're going to kick it off. Round one fight. Front-end JavaScript, here's your question. In JavaScript, what is the actual behavior and output when you try to use the sort method on an array of numbers without a comparison function? And perhaps why does it produce this result?
So what happens when you run a sort?
Yes.
On an array of numbers?
Without a function as the...
Without like a comparer function, which is the second, or the argument to sort. It will, first of all, mutate the array. So the original array will have been changed. And then the second thing is that it will, like if you do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to like 15, it'll be like 1, 11, 12, and then once you get past the ones that start with 1, then it will go 2, and then 22, like it doesn't actually put them in order, is what I'm trying to say. So the reason, I don't know if I know the reason behind this, but I'm assuming it's because it converts them to strings to do the comparison. Is that right?
That is absolutely correct. It converts all elements to strings by default and sorts them into UTF-16 code units when no comparison function is provided. When numbers are converted to strings, obviously 10 comes before 2, right? Because it's in lexicographic. That's another word I can't say. Lexicographic order. Did not know that word before. Interesting. Nice work. Right. I love your deductions on that. We're all pretty much dead on. So.
Oh, good. Thank you. Let's talk about one that I actually needed the other day. It has to do, I guess you could do this front end or back end. But what JavaScript API would you use if you needed to split a sentence into individual words and or individual characters? So someone gives you a sentence like, hello, my name is Wes Boss, comma, I love JavaScript, exclamation mark. How would I split that sentence into individual words and then each word into individual characters, accounting for tricky things like emojis and multiple languages?
Yeah, you know what? I think regex is going to be involved here at some point. Obviously, you could just split with an empty space to get each word. But how do you use regex here? Because it's really easy in regex to say, give me all the characters A through Z, capital and lowercase. How do you use that with splitting? I never had to do that. I'm not quite sure. How do you do it, Wes?
All right, so yeah, split is kind of the easiest way, and you might not run into any issues, but some like emojis are multiple characters long, and some, like, I don't know if it's Chinese characters or whatever, but they are multiple characters put together, and they appear as a single character. And then same thing with words as well. You got to think about, like, if something is dashed, is it Is that a single word or multiple words? And the answer to this is use the intl.segmenter API. And the intl segmenter API will allow you to specify both a locale, so you can tell it which language it is in, but also the granularity that you want. So you can tell it, split it up into sentence, into word, or into grapheme, which is something that looks like a character, but it may be made up of multiples.
INTL stuff, extremely underutilized. I think it'd be great if we could do an episode on INTL tips and tricks, because that's not one that I knew. I feel like there's so many little things out there that you can use that for.
I just saw yesterday that the intl.number format gained approval to add new formatting of currencies. So intl number format allows you to format currencies, but there's like different ways you can format currency. Like if it's Canadian, you put CA $ first, and it looks like there's more flexibility added to it.
Yeah, totally. All right, here's a question for you on JavaScript backend things, and this one's about the streaming API. Okay. In Node.js, when using the stream API, explain what backpressure is. I think that's a good enough question.
So the idea with a stream,
and I'm going to post some here. I'll post some code that you can look at. So this is some code about what it is. We can maybe put this up on the video. I don't know why it's not pasting correctly. But basically, you have a read and write stream where you are writing to a file as the data is coming in.
Okay. So I'm assuming what happens here with streams is that you are sending data from one end and you are receiving it on the other. And you hope that those things are keeping up with each other. And I should say, by the way, I have no idea, but I'm going to guess what this is.
Yeah.
And when you need to do something with the data on the receiving side, like write it to file or parse that data, there could be a possibility where you're taking in data faster than you can deal with it. And at that point, you will start to run out of memory or something like that. So the question was, how do you deal with backpressure?
The question was really just explain what it is. And
So I'm assuming that's what it is when there's more cars lined up at the stoplight than the road can support.
Man, for two answers in a row, you've claimed that you have no idea, and you've gotten it dead on, almost reading purely off of a definition here. So yes, that is correct. Backpressure occurs when the writing speed cannot keep up with the reading speed. Without proper backpressure handling, this can lead to high memory usage, such as data chunks queuing up in memory. And so basically the way they have it as a solution here is to use a resume and to check to make sure that, so you're pausing the read stream, and then once the write stream has been drained, the read stream can resume and can continue. So
okay. So there is a way to communicate via the stream.
Yeah, I actually posted the code. We'll have the code in the show notes. But basically, yes, you're saying if you can't continue, pause the read for a second. Once the write is ready, then resume the stream. Sorry, I almost knocked over my coffee. That happens a lot over here, Wes. I'm just gesticulating around over here, and I'm always knocking over my stuff. That's
great. Oh, cool. I want to make a example like that where you can like essentially pause the stream while it is ready to go. I like it. Good. That was a good question. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I gotta get another one. That's way too hard.
Oh no.
I'm not gonna ask you to answer this one, but I just want to laugh with you. In a high concurrency Node.js application using the cluster module, explain potential race conditions and memory sharing challenges when implemented a distributed in-memory cache across worker processes.
Oh, yeah. What a question. Could you imagine being in an interview and then getting that question and just being like, I don't know, like, you must be applying for a very specific type of role to get questions like that. So
yeah,
nothing my UI brain can do. So
the next question is here. Describe a comprehensive strategy for implementing a custom middleware-based rate limit system in something like, it says Express.js, but in something that has a middleware in it, Hano would be a good example.
Yeah, so rate limiting, my understanding here would be that for rate limiting, you're checking, like if too many requests are coming in per given amount of time, then you're going to want to stop. In rate limiting, do you prevent, like you say, wait, hold on, if too many are coming through, is that what you do? Or do you slow it down? I actually don't know.
You can do either.
Okay.
It's most likely you just say, hey, you've done too many. Now stop. But you could also increase the time that a request takes every single time, and that stops someone who's entering a password once. It takes 100 milliseconds, but then the second time is 200 milliseconds.
Yeah, so basically what you're going to be doing is you have a threshold for how many requests can happen per given amount of time, and each time a request is coming in, you're incrementing that over that given amount of time. In that given amount of time, that the variable in memory, I suppose in memory, is going to be storing how many requests currently you have per that time. And then if that exceeds your limit, then you're, like you're saying, you're either slowing them down or you are blocking them entirely. But basically, you're just not, because middleware functions like it's stepping into the request process, right? The request comes in, and then you can even augment it on the response out. It's happening in the middle of that process. So if you can step in there and say, wait, hold on, first thing in the process is that request, these have been coming in too fast, let me just slow down and block them. I had to implement something like this for people they're spamming stolen credit cards on the level up checkout phase. Because even if I had CAPTCHA or all this stuff, you'd still get people who would just try a whole bunch or whatever. So I had to put a rate limiting of you can only try 4 credit cards per hour per account or whatever. So it's you don't want to block anybody who's legitimately accidentally entering their card wrong, but at the same time, just a version of it.
I have that on my rate limiting is primarily IP based, but I often will have like a entire class at like a university try to sign up, and it immediately shuts it down because within 2 minutes you have 50, 100 people try sign up for it. And that's a problem with literally everything, but it's a problem where good people do things in the same way that bad people do things. But yeah, that was a great answer. I like it.
You can rate limit individual users. You could rate limit every user. You could,
Yeah, you can do it on a user basis, but then like if they use a VPN or they like clear their browser or they're running a script from that doesn't have cookies, it's a hard problem to solve. But I think we did a whole show on that as well.
I have one for US, and this is based on in fact an informative tweet that I did on using the translate and transform properties. So in the past, you could use transform to use something like translate, right? What specific translate or transform function did not become a property once they moved translate to a property?
I was actually going to ask you this.
One of them did not become a property here.
One of them. So
and it's not a version of it. It's not translate 3D, so to say.
Oh, I was going to say like TranslateZ. Okay, so transform, let me think about what the possible options are, right? You have scale, you have rotate, skew, translate. It's just rotate, skew, and translate, right? So is it translate? No, translate did make it. That was your whole point, right?
You're forgetting one. I just want to say you're forgetting one.
Okay, let me think about this. You got scale, rotate, skew, translate. There's one more?
No, that you didn't say scale before.
Oh, I didn't say scale. Okay, so scale, rotate, skew, and translate. I think the one that did not make it was translate.
Do you think the one that did not make it was translate? Okay. No, because that was in my example, and you knew that. You already even said that once. The one that did not make it is skew. There is a scale property, a rotate property, and a translate property, but no skew property.
But wait. Is there an equivalent of translate X and Y CSS properties as well?
Well, translate can accept multiple values here. Yeah.
Okay. But if you did want to just change one of them, you use a variable. Okay. Oh man, skew. Skew's my favorite.
Yeah, I don't know why. In fact, Brahmas quote tweeted my thing giving some extra context, and I replied to him saying, "What's up with Skew not making the jump?" And did not respond. So I gotta get that answer from somebody.
That's deep down. Don't ask questions you don't want answers to, Scott.
Exactly. Shaking the boat here, rocking the boat. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. All right, here's my CSS question for you. Explain the potential rendering benefits and downsides to using TranslateZ 0 or will change transform in CSS. Maybe even just narrow that down to will change. What are the potential upsides and downsides to using it?
Yeah, I don't know if will change explicitly implements the GPU or not, but I know translate with the z-axis does put your transforms onto the GPU, which can be advantageous, especially if you're wanting smoother animations. Will change is an interesting property because it kind of preps the browser to know that this item will be animating, and therefore it's able to potentially make it a smoother experience. Now, will change, my understanding, and this could be right or wrong, I'm going to say I don't know explicitly. I have looked this up at some point. My understanding is that will change becomes a problem if too many things are listed as will change, because the browser has to keep track of all of the things that will change. And if you have a billion things that will change, then that can become a problem and can slow down your site. I do believe will change, I don't know if will change does put it on the GPU or not. I don't want to say yes or no to that because I don't know. Actually, I'll go for it. I'll say it does put it on the GPU.
That's good. Yes, you're right. So CSS will change hints to the browser how an element is expected to change. So you could say, will change transform, will change opacity, will change scroll position, and it hints to the browser, hey, this thing will change. However, like you said, it's intended to be used as a last resort because the browser already tries to do this.
Yes.
And there are some downsides, like it creates its own stacking context. So if you're doing any like blends with something that is behind an element, then you can goof up the stacking context or background. I think a background blur or something like that in CSS I had that issue myself where it wasn't blending properly in Safari. So
it was will change, huh?
Yeah. So it's something as to be used as a last resort, and it's usually just something you just throw it in there and see if it changes, measure, and then if not, then maybe you want to take that out because otherwise, once you make everything faster, nothing is faster.
That's right. That is right. Here's an HTML question for you. This is a fun one here. This is a fun one about HTML tables, which gotta love HTML tables. What is the difference and why might this cause unexpected behavior between a table with an immediate child as a table row and then table data versus a table with a table body element and then the table row, table set?
So the difference between a table with an immediate table row versus a table with a table body and then a table row?
Correct.
I don't know. Sorry, the question was what's the difference or like what's the downside?
What's the unexpected issue that might happen let's just say, what's the unexpected situation that will happen from writing the first one without the table body? Like, let's say you didn't write a table body. What is an unexpected situation that could arise from that?
Something to do with like call span and lining up with the table headers.
It's not, but it's interesting nonetheless. So the unexpected behavior is that the browser automatically inserts a table body.
Oh.
So if you don't have a table body, it automatically inserts one, meaning that the HTML that you author will not match the HTML in your code, meaning that if, let's say, you looked at the code and were for some reason saying, I'll do an immediate child of the table, and expecting that to target the table row, because that's what it looks like. Well, it'd actually be targeting the table body, which isn't in your code and does not exist in your code, but does exist when it's rendered into the body.
But what code would you write that would like I'm assuming both CSS and JavaScript would know about the body because the browser injects a body.
I put just a CSS, quick little CSS thing where you could have like an immediate child selector.
Like an immediate child selector? You're saying that you would assume that your direct child descender would work. Yeah.
Basically, the end result is that the HTML in the browser does not match the HTML in your code.
Man, yeah. I did not know that. That's like that's my next question. I was about to tell you, but I'm gonna tell you. Name an HTML element that does not need to be closed.
List item.
And I got it. Okay, let me give you a harder one. Hold on.
I know that. That's when and in fact, the moment that you said that, I was prepping myself for that exact question. So I had it primed. I had will change answer in my head.
Isn't that weird? So you don't need to close your list items, folks.
No.
Don't waste your time. Oh, all right. Here's my actual question.
It doesn't count because I got it right. All right.
Describe the precise semantic and accessible implications of using Dialog versus creating a modal with a div and a role of dialogue. So like maybe not the semantic or whatever, but basically why would you use a dialogue instead of a div with a role of dialogue?
Yeah, Dialog does some neat stuff. First and foremost, when you open a dialog, it captures your mouse and keyboard. So if I open a dialog and then I start typing, it's gonna, or even like tab around, it's gonna immediately select the next thing inside of the dialog. So that's a big one. Also, escape key by default will close that bad boy. So it inherently makes it more accessible in those ways, right? Giving you that keyboard support. Are you looking for more things here?
That's good. I think that's good. My answer here has a couple more things. Actually, I didn't know this. Restores focus to the element that opened the modal.
Yep. When you close it.
I didn't know that. So if you click a button, open a modal, tab around, submit a form,
or hit escape,
and then hit escape, and it goes back to focusing that modal. Other things is dialog boxes are rendered to the top layer. So you don't have to fuss with Z-index or fuss with like appending it to the end of the DOM. You can use absolute positioning without having to worry about any of that.
But then you do have to fuss with anchor positioning, which is not fully supported.
And then there's backdrop. You can animate backdrop in, which is, there's just a lot of good stuff.
I love backdrop. Backdrop's one of those things I hate implementing.
You can open them. No, you can't open them with HTML, but you can close them with HTML.
Soon, though, you can open them with HTML with invokers.
Yes.
So soon.
I'm excited for that. You can close them with a form submit, which is really funny. Yes. What's the form submit?
The form submit is form method. It is
form.
I think it's is it just dialogue? I think it might just be dialogue.
Yeah, there's a get and post, and then just dialogue.
Yeah. I talked about this stuff in my talks. It was good. Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Here's a question for TypeScript for you.
Okay.
This one, I feel like you will nail this one, but I'm going to ask it to you anyways because I do think this is good for our audience. In TypeScript, please explain the difference between unknown and any. Describe a real-world scenario where using unknown would be safer than any, but never would be too restrictive.
The difference between unknown and any in TypeScript is that when you have a type that is any, it literally can be any. So often you'll have a function where you don't know what is going to be passed in. And at that point, you can either say it will be of any type or it will be of an unknown type. And the thing about TypeScript is it lets you do anything with any type, meaning that if you were to try and add 1 to an any type, it's allowed. It's any type. If you were to try to do some string stuff, capitalize to uppercase on an any type, it's allowed. It's any type. With unknown, which is almost always what you want, the unknown type makes you first type narrow it down to the type before you go ahead and use it. So if you want to add a number to it, you're not allowed to do anything with an unknown until you first type narrow, check that it is a number. And then once you're within the narrow type of a number, then you can go ahead and start doing number stuff with it. So if you do not know what is coming into your function and you want to do something with that value, it is almost always better to make it an unknown, explicitly narrow it down inside of your logic, and then go ahead and use it.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's great. I think that's perfect. Nice work.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I would say, though, here's an aside before we move on to the next question. I just looked up invokers and to what the status of them are. They are available behind a flag in Chrome, Safari, and Edge. And Firefox, not Edge. That they're behind a flag in all three of the major Chrome, Safari, and Firefox invokers.
Wow,
incredible! People didn't even know what they were a couple of months ago.
Is there a list of the possible invoker commands?
Yes, there is, and it's so far it's going to be mostly modal stuff. So that is like the commands that are like stopping and starting an audio player and stuff are not involved in that.
Yeah.
So it is.
Hope we get that eventually.
Yeah. Right now it is, I believe, just the toggle pop over or toggle whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I even wonder if you'll be able to like register custom invokers. I know that kind of defeats the purpose.
No,
but
give me that. Yeah.
Write a little JavaScript to not have to write JavaScript.
You're right.
Like
exactly.
That.
Yeah.
In TypeScript, you have a fetch request with the default TypeScript types, the browser types for a fetch request.
Okay.
When you fetch something and then you response.json it, right? If you want it to be of a specific type, like let's say it's a syntax podcast episode and we have a type of show that has a title and an MP3 URL, all that stuff. So if you were to fetch it, why is it not a good idea to use the as show on the end? Or why can't you pass a generic to JSON saying this is the type of what it is? Not to say that we don't do that, but
for the fetch itself?
Yes.
Because it may fail and it may not return a show.
Which one? So if it fails, that is not covered because the fetch would just cover the happy path, right? That the catch would cover the failure of it. Yeah,
but I guess because you have to get the to JSON. You have to. Or are you talking about asserting the return of to JSON?
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Because of serialization of data types. Is that a tree worth barking up?
No.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess that could be, though, because a show type from the database is going to have different data types than what you parse from JSON.
No, I'm saying like if you know what type is coming back from an API, you think, oh, I would just like to have a generic on fetch so I can tell it what is coming back. And there's a reason why TypeScript doesn't have that in their API.
Give it to me.
Okay, it's because you don't know. you think you know that it's going to return a show, but what happens if the data being returned is not of that specific type, right? So using a generic or casting it with as is just telling TypeScript that it is of this specific type. And of course, we all do that in some cases where you're like, it's going to be that. Yeah. But the proper way would be to narrow the type and actually check that the shape of your data that has come back from the API is actually what you're expecting. So whether that's via a validation step or simply just checking for the properties that are in there, it looks like a duck and walks like a duck.
Might be a good use case for Zod, something like that, right?
Exactly,
validating your data, and then you can get those types straight out of it as well. Make sure that, okay, cool.
What I really like about Tansac Start, I was trying it out, is all of their server functions have like a validation middleware where you can use Zod or something like that in it, so you know that the data coming in is of this specific type.
Yeah. Oh man, this one's interesting. Okay. This is a browser question for you, Wes. What are the differences between site isolation, process isolation, and origin isolation in modern browsers?
Site isolation, origin isolation, and what?
And
process
isolation.
Oh, man.
Site, process, origin.
That's a great question. So isolation, I assuming, is whether or not data is accessible to other things. Am I on the right?
Yeah.
The right thing? Okay.
You could think of it as like a process for the browser. Yeah.
Okay. And there's different spaces in which those things can be isolated, right? Like an origin, immediately I go to, like an origin is like a domain name, right? Syntax.fm, the data is isolated to the origin. That's something like local storage, right? It's shared amongst multiple tabs in multiple browsers of the same thing. So I'm going to say origin is domain-based. Process would be like the difference between multiple tabs of the same website in the same browser. And then site isolation, like a subdomain, maybe?
So I think you were close. So the site is one process per the website. So I'd imagine that's per domain, where the origin isolation, it takes into account protocol, domain, and port, where the site, I don't believe, does. Let me even confirm that. Site.
Oh, protocol, domain, and port.
Yes.
Yeah, the port is an interesting one. Because if you have like a local host, sometimes I think it's like local storage is shared between ports, but not domain.
Yeah. And so site, the definition for that is it groups by effective top-level domain. So mail.google.com and drive.google.com are considered to be the same site. However, evil.com and evil.co.uk, these are not my domains, would be different.
Oh,
so that's why when you do something like a www dot, it can utilize the same cookies as the other subdomains, but not from apex to subdomain. Now, here's an interesting one, a little bonus. Do you know the relevant HTTP headers to modify these?
No, I do not.
Cross-origin opener policy, or COOP, cross-origin embed policy, and cross-origin resource policy. I don't know any of those. Other CORS things for people who really want to go nerdy into CORS.
Wow. That I had no idea about that. That was a good one. All right. Explain what Quirks mode is in HTML and name one of the possible things that will happen when the browser is running in Quirks mode.
Man, I haven't had to think about Quirks mode in a long time. This is something I know I should know, and it's something I just haven't had to access in a long time in my brain. Let's think. Quirks mode. Quirks mode is enabled when, like, you do things like omit a doc type. Would that enable Quirks mode?
That's exactly how you enable Quirks mode.
Okay,
yes.
But what does Quirks mode? What does Quirks mode do?
If you put a document into Quirks mode, what would you expect to happen?
That I couldn't tell you. I know it has something to do with which APIs are available, but I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
It's inconsistent margin and padding, different handling of table cell sizing, unpredictable float and positioning behaviors,
so it's style-based.
Non-standard CSS implementations, inconsistent width and height calculations, different handling of percentage-based measurements. Holy hell. This is basically like before the browsers got together and like standardized on a lot of how these things should work, there was older doc types. And those older doc types dictate to the browser how it should work. And the poor people that have to maintain these old Quirks mode. So now HTML5 or doc type HTML it puts you out of Quirks mode, right? So if you ever forget a doc type, you're going to get a little message in your console that says operating in Quirks mode.
I like how you said now when like that came out in like 2011.
Yeah. It's been this way for like 15 years. Yeah.
Oh,
that's wild that someone has to keep Quirks mode code running somewhere. We should. I want to have the guy on who's working on the Ladybird browser.
Yes, me too. I think about Ladybird all the time.
Is he going to support Quirks mode? Probably not.
Let's hope not. I did see that they responded to my tweet about transforms that is already supported in Ladybird. So it seems like Ladybird is cruising on APIs that they've supported.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Cool. All right, that's it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Anything else to add, or should we wrap it up?
Nothing. I got nothing. All
right.
How many of these questions did you get stumped by? Do you have any questions for us in later episodes of Stumped? Do you want to, look, maybe we can get a little Stumped going in the audience and people can just post questions into the comments. So if you have any questions, you want to stump people, you think you know something, or maybe you want to stump us or whatever, leave those questions down below. We would love to try to answer them. That'd be a lot of fun.
All right. Peace.
Peace.